Okay, welcome to another episode of Roll or Die. Today we have for you a real treat to our listeners. I guess he's an expat, He is an Aussie. He's living over in the US right now, training with the B team. He's a purple belt. He's going to give us all the dirt. He's also a stand-up comedian, and his name is Bobby Sandhu.
Woo!
Thanks for
Guys.
joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Awesome, man. So, we were just saying how you put on a nice shirt for us, and you were telling us you didn't.
That's right. I was supposed to be. Well, I actually not just supposed to be. I did. I ended up downtown last night. I left around 2 a.m. and woke up in a few different places. I had to mission it back to where my car was. So this is a day old. Oh, this actually it probably doesn't even smell too nice. So you're lucky you're not in the room.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. Like, how are you juggling like the life of a stand-up comedian? Are you active as a comedian, first of all?
Well, I don't do a very good job at either of them, so it's very easy.
Okay.
You know what I mean? It's very easy to do many things poorly. To do it even one well is a hard thing.
Yeah, that's the story of my life, bro. Many things. Sorry, you're preaching to the converted, man.
For people that don't know you, Bobby, tell us, where are you right now?
I'm in Austin, Texas. South towards almost towards San Marcos, which is another city. I'm staying with a friend here, just with the goal of training with all the elite guys at B Team, one of the top gyms in the world. Really trying to prioritize skill development in jiu-jitsu. That's basically the key priority of my life at this stage. So yeah, here in Austin, amongst a lot of great jiu-jitsu talent and knowledge. So somehow in this kind of awesome predicament and trying to make the most of the opportunity.
That's awesome. We've all been like bitten by the BJJ bug. If like anyone watching this podcast, most likely, and definitely Kim and I, and definitely you, but like what drives you to make BJJ the primary focus of your life? I mean, it's not like I don't even know if people can make a proper living out of competing, for example, at the moment. Maybe they can if you're a Gordon Ryan or someone like that. But what is the main driver for you?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm very fascinated by how we kind of form intentions and volitions and decided to pursue whatever I mean, any choice that we make it's an interesting thing, and then oftentimes we have a story about why I've made a particular choice, and it's very hard to ascribe actions to okay, maybe I did it because of this situation, but okay, why didn't you do the opposite? Like, hey, my dad was drunk. Well, why are you not drunk? Well, no, I'm against alcohol because my dad. It's very hard to be certain of these kinds of things. I was always very sort of smaller, less sort of physical kind of person. So I kind of had this insecurity in the back of my mind. If I was ever in a self-defense kind of physical altercation, how would I be able to kind of protect myself? And it made sense to me to be able to know how to defend myself. So I guess that's what brought me into the door of training. And jiu-jitsu is probably one of the few kind of real martial arts that most people can still develop to a higher level. It's harder. A lot of these other combat sports, they're more attribute based, whereas in jiu-jitsu, it's still at a certain level you have to work on things like strength, conditioning, mobility, all that stuff. But jiu-jitsu is definitely the one for people like myself who I wouldn't say are very athletically gifted or even inclined.
Thanks for sharing that.
And how did you discover it? How did you find jiu-jitsu?
I was shown MMA by my cousin, and it was like, okay, this is basically WWE that's real. I saw a Krav Maga guy on a YouTube video teach a rear naked choke, and that looked interesting. And then my main plan was to do ninjutsu and become a ninja. 14, that's kind of where I was headed, And I rang my local school. It wasn't even local. It was 30 minutes away, actually, but I was ready to be committed. and they told me that 14 is too young an age to learn something as dangerous as ninjutsu. So because they turned me down, I was like, well, I guess I'll do this pussy MMA stuff for the next couple of years until until I'm ready to put my MMA boots on and my ninjutsu boots on. And thankfully, through doing MMA, I realized that actually this is kind of more realistic to what would kind of happen in I guess, a street fight as opposed to that kind of stuff. So I was lucky. I got saved by that.
Mm.
There was just happened to be on my bus ride home. There was a big sign for a local MMA school, and then through that MMA school, I ended up doing gi. I did gi for a couple of years, and then saw Craig Jones, was very inspired by his success, Lachlan's success, and kind of started coming towards the no-gi, moved to Melbourne, kind of started taking some pretty big steps towards this sort of stuff.
Mm. How did you develop your competitive, like, how do you describe yourself as a competitor, and how did you cultivate your competitive spirit, game plan, all that sort of stuff? Where does it all come from?
How would I describe myself? I mean, it's very satisfying to me when to just be able to put someone in a submission. That's really a really satisfying kind of feeling. To have this thing it's seemingly nothing, seemingly very mundane. I'm just holding on to this person, but kind of have that like power. I'm a big power guy. I think the more power,
like imposing your will on some
yeah,
yeah.
And it's with the use of like tact and strategy, So it's even more. There's like an intellectual side. It's not just like just pure like brute forcing another person. So when I like today, I just sometimes occasionally there'll be a person, even a hobbyist, of someone who doesn't train as seriously as I do, and I'll train with them, and for whatever reason, it's difficult for me to impose my game on them, just styles, whatever. But then occasionally when I'm just hitting submissions and I'm hitting, able to do very, very many different submissions, if I can get strangles, front strangles, back strangles, all manner of leg attacks, switch between positions. When I'm successfully able to use jiu-jitsu and use the full extent of jiu-jitsu, that's something, because it's like you want to be now. I think to be like world class, or to be the kind of the grappler I really want to be. I want to be like a Swiss Army knife, where I've got a few good options, but I can do many different things, and that way I can kind of really adapt to different opponents. And then the guys some of the most elite guys I've been around, Craig, Isaac, Giles, these guys they really are well rounded, and they put the time in, because there's going to be parts of jiu-jitsu that are going to come easily to people, and you can just double down on your strengths, and that also definitely works. There's guys who are one-dimensional and who do really well, but there's also, I think, great satisfaction that comes from working on areas things where initially there's great boredom and failure, but even in those sort of parts of the game, you do kind of see development and progress. So that's very cool also.
Awesome, man.
And what's it like training at the B team? So how long have you been there? Like what's a typical day like?
Yeah, so I've done about 7 months of training at the B team, 7-8 months. It'll be about a year by the time I come back from this trip. First of all, I'm very lucky, because most people that come here, they can't stay for something like 6 months, a year. So for me to be able to stay here longer, I can do things in a much better way than someone who comes here for 2 weeks or a month. People who are going to do that, they're going to have to kind of redline their body and kind of really push themselves, get injured. Whereas I can kind of, when I first get here, I'm just like, okay, let me get my sleep together. Let me try to eat more and get things. And over time, because I'm here for so long, it's much easier for me. There's no gym that I've been that's like B team. It's really the whole package. There's really high level guys. There's a lot of knowledge, and everyone's really personable. And because of the type of people that are there, the place is one where everyone feels comfortable, and it's a place that you really want to be.
Mm.
And every day, all these people are showing up all the time. They're extremely committed individuals. A lot of very, conscientious, like intelligent people who really understand jiu-jitsu, and they're all there. They're all there every day for the same goal, which is that everyone gets better together. So
Mm.
it's really when you're trying to do something as difficult as like becoming really competitive at jiu-jitsu and really good, to have the support of all those other people who've already done it, and are willing to kind of put their time and energy into you. That's really invaluable for someone who's looking to do what I'm trying to do.
Mm. And what about like the traveling somewhere to train, right? To me, like I think it's like if you rent an office, you're more likely to go there to work. It's like, okay, I'm in a space where I've traveled. Now I'm going to fucking work because I'm here. Is that the kind of experience? And does that wear off after you've been there for as long as you have been? Or do you still
Yeah.
wake up in the morning and say, what a privilege. I've traveled. I'm going to give it is there some effect from traveling to train?
Yeah, I mean, it dawns on you, like, even little mini. I'm very like I'll ask a ton of questions, and I'll really like try to get my money's worth at every session. Like and I say it to a lot of the visitors even come. I had a guy he was asking me for some kind of technical advice, and I was like, hey mate, you bought a $4,000 ticket. Like, go ask Nicky Ryan that.
Mm.
Like, because these guys are very approachable. We're in a unique position in jiu-jitsu where you can kind of go train with the best, and they're very accessible.
Mm.
So I think that part of you obviously dawns. Obviously, it's very hard if you've just got the foot on the gas and you're trying to really do a lot. It's easy to burn out. So I think it's always like phases of pushing and coming back. Maybe you compete for a bit, and then you train very hard and intense and more A game, or then maybe you take some time off competition. You focus more on skill development and working on your weaknesses. So I think it's in phases for sure. Because part of me also, I'm experiencing so much new stuff, and there's plenty of distractions. So part of it is also, just try not to fall into a holiday mode, because that can
Mm.
happen too, where you're like, oh, because even when you are training, easy to get caught up. You need to be kind of vigilant with yourself to make sure you're making the best use of your time. It's just
Yeah.
we have a kind of tendency to let off and
Yeah,
just
because
do
nobody
things.
knows you there. Yeah, nobody
Yeah,
knows you in this city. You could be Dr. Bobby Sandhu for the night.
exactly. Yeah.
And
And trying to do comedy, the two things aren't necessarily like the lifestyle of a jiu-jitsu guy. It's all about recovery, and comedy's about the opposite of
What
recovery.
about killing yourself? Killing yourself.
Yeah. So it's
tell us,
interesting.
tell us a bit more about your comedy, your stand-up comedy. What's that? How's that going?
Yeah, I mean, I'm in a city where, again, not just for jiu-jitsu, this place has like just got like Chappelle was here the other night. My friends of mine saw Shane Gillis perform. Tony Hinchcliffe, Joe Rogan, all his friends. Like, there's just such unbelievable comedic talent in the city, and there's so many different comedy venues in this city because those people have kind of attracted it. Like, I've done comedy in Melbourne, which is kind of like the biggest place to do comedy in Australia. But this place, there's on like 40, 50 comics trying to get up at like really, even like small, very, very small comedy gigs, and uh, sometimes hundreds of comics trying to sign up, trying to get spots and stuff. So
Right.
it's really amazing. The amount of what's so accessible to you, like this, I could do comedy. The amount of stage time I can get here really doesn't compare to anywhere else.
And what's your show about at the moment? Like if without giving away anything, everyone should go see you. But like
Yeah,
what's the gist of your show?
yeah. I really like improv.
Mhm.
I'm a very lazy person. Outside of actually performing comedy, I don't enjoy the writing and working on the set as much. And because often I'm doing shorter sets, I can get away with kind of just talking about often the room, what was said before me, what was said after me, what I see, what comes to me. Sometimes I have an idea. My kind of usual topics are talking about, race or talking about partying. Those are two good fallbacks, if they're young, talk about having a good time. If they're a bit older, try to talk about race. But I honestly don't know what's going to come out of my mouth, so that's
So it's like this show for Kim and I. We are lazy as hell. We've never written any planned questions. And somehow
well,
155 episodes later, and no one's sued us or anything yet. So it's all good.
Yet.
well, people often, people say to me, "Oh, like I could never do comedy, and how would I start? And I got to work on this." And I'm like, look, even them laughing, like that's like saying like I'm gonna start doing jiu-jitsu, I'm gonna be submitting people. It's like, well, yes, the goal is to submit people, and all your efforts are going to be directed towards that end, and hopefully, if everything goes well, you will get very good at that objective of getting the laugh, getting the submission. But it's all you have to do, just like all you have to do in a jiu-jitsu match is just walk onto the mat, shake the ref's hand, and start wrestling. All you have to do in comedy is not get off stage until they give you the light and keep talking. That's it.
Interesting.
Like
I love you,
that's
man. That makes a lot of sense. That really
yeah,
does. And that's an access for a lot of people who are scared to, like I was talking about the other day, I was scared to compete in jiu-jitsu for 14 years. I still did it, but I was shit
wow.
scared, right? And the bottom line is I just kept getting out there and doing it. And now I'm looking forward to it. But it just takes a
Beautiful.
lot of time of just getting out there. But if I had have heard what you were saying, just get out there, walk on the mat, shake the ref's hand, and just
Yeah, yeah.
start to wrestle. That is the simplest, most distilled version of how to compete I've ever heard right there, man.
I had a match recently against a real tough guy, one of John's up and coming guys, David Cesare, and John's in their corner and everyone's, and I'd had a good streak of wins. I'd had about 4 or 5 subs, local guys coming in. He'd done the same, and it was like it was a good fun little matchup. And Craig asked me, he's like, "Do you think you're gonna win?" And I said, "I think I could win, and that's about it." And he has a real similar mindset to this stuff. It's like the outcome of I don't control my opponent, his preparation, what could happen, how I feel a moment of. Even I feel like I've lost to athletes I'm better at just because I made the wrong decision, and then the next move they got me.
Mm-hmm.
And I've seen grapplers time and time again, athletes who are technically far less than their opponents beat the technically superior opponent
Mm.
just because they put together on the day. I mean, I think I've missed your question. I'm talking about something
No,
else.
no, you're not. No, you're
No,
speaking straight to it, man. Yeah, I love it. I love it.
that's exactly right. And did I see? Are you got some BJJ Fanatics videos out, or what, you selling your own instructionals? What's that?
Yeah, so I'm working with some friends of mine. They're from the Penn State Wrestling, which is one of the top schools producing some of the best wrestlers in America. And these guys they've got a streaming kind of channel similar to BJ Fanatics where you can buy instructional videos for wrestling, grappling. Uh, so I've got that's called Athletes Ocean. That's the platform, and I've got a leg lock instructional that's a couple hours. It's got rolling footage and just different kind of techniques and ideas I got from initially. A lot of that stuff came from Lachlan Giles, 50-50 something. Now I'm really heavily coming back to 50-50. I think
Mm.
it's one of those positions where even when I'm training with guys who are significantly bigger than me, when I contrast it to any other leg entanglement, I have a far better ability to keep my opponent there. And then obviously there's a very strong fit. There's basically the most powerful joint lock in jiu-jitsu, the inside heel hook, which is available from there, which you have to make certain modifications to be able to do it from that position. But you've still got a great sub with which you can really end the match. And my opponent can't as easily disengage. Because what happens is once people know you're a leg locker and they know you're dangerous, they're just going to want to avoid that position at all costs. So your ability to get there and stay there is huge.
Mm.
So that's, I think,
Amazing.
Awesome. Send
I
us
mean,
a
I want
link.
to go.
We'll
How do
put
we,
it on this
yeah.
episode.
Yeah, we
Yeah,
should. We should put a link to
some
that.
sales.
Do you sell it? Is it it's a purchasable
Yeah,
instrument?
$30 or something.
Yeah,
Yeah,
sweet.
it's
And
30 bucks. I
like, I'm
took.
interested to know the journey of that. Like, I mean, yeah, like when did you decide to make an instructional? What's the journey like for those who want to make an instructional? Is it like,
Yeah,
has it paid for your trip? Is it ongoing revenue? Like,
right, right. Well, the instruction is even with a lot of I did a lot of coaching in Sydney, and a lot of people, they think that you're an idiot. You shouldn't be teaching no one nothing, and fair enough.
I think
People
that
think
about me
that about
too, brother. So
Anton.
don't you
Sorry,
worry.
Anton.
Yeah, that's me too. Kim's the
And
only credible coach here.
hard to
Not a
why someone listen to you over John Danaher or Lachlan Giles, and I'm saying don't, like, definitely go to those guys, but if you want like what I'm made is quite different to like a leg lock anthology or one of John's videos, which is like super comprehensive and whatever. My videos, mine's 2 hours long, and it's really focused around breaking mechanics,
Mm.
and it's because it's a more narrow focus. There's some stuff on entries and stuff as well, but it's also stuff. The kind of the main thing I can sell is that I've been in tough training rooms for many years, and because I'm very lazy, I don't train much. I just sit and watch, and I've seen a lot of these certain things be really successful with the better guys, and I think there's no accident. There's things that work well and work well repeatedly. There's very good reasons for that. So
Mhm.
having been doing jiu-jitsu as kind of my main thing for the last 5 years, and training longer than that, I think I've kind of that kind of gives me, a kind of a unique advantage, and also a unique vantage point. It's also I'm me being quite unathletic. I think even though I obviously have certain physical attributes, I can I can't just rely on power or strength to kind of muscle through moves.
Mm.
Um, but yeah, I just happen to be really lucky that I'm around awesome people who've helped me in every way. There's so many people. Um, I just happen to know a friend who was a videographer, Maurice. He trained at a local gym, and the local gym offered to let me have their place to film, and the gym owner was the UK in the video, and we just basically in one take, I had a A4 sheet of what I wanted to teach, and I just talked through, my main sequences from kind of key leg entanglement positions, and then some stuff to how to get to those positions, and then also including footage of me hitting those techniques in live situations. I think that's
Mm.
something Gordon is instructionals, and I think that's
Yeah.
really good. There's obviously a difference with hitting things in drilling and doing things live. So
Yeah,
it's
I
really
really,
cool.
sorry, I cut you off. I was
No,
gonna say, I just love that we're always like, if we look at it like the student is always the teacher and the teacher is always the student, like
yeah,
simultaneously. That is really what's so great about this. I've learned stuff from white belts, you know what I mean? So, like, in fact,
yeah.
regularly. So, I really do. Oh, we just lost your video, brother.
Oh,
Your phone's ringing.
to get a call. Maybe a call came through.
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, we're good. We back?
Yeah, we're still here. Still
Yeah.
here. Hey, I wanted to ask you, so what's next, do you reckon, for jiu-jitsu? I mean, we asked this for all guests, but I feel like you're right in there, at the mecca of
Mhm.
jiu-jitsu. So now
Did you
that Austin,
in terms of technique or what's going to be?
yeah,
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 yeah.
like there's the leg entanglement, sort of everyone's figured that out now. Like, do you think, are we sticking with that? Is it, what do you reckon?
There's going to be people are going to become far more skilled in the standing position. I think that's going to be one because
Yeah.
and that's gonna it's gonna be a lot of wrestling techniques coming in, and also like wrestling style metas. Like for the longest time now, we've the core traditional pins, side control, mount, back control, all of these positions, as Craig will tell you in his instructionals, I can put my feet on the floor and I can bridge and I can create this incredible connect which I can really move you around and make it difficult for you to control me on top. So things like leg riding coming in, things that Khabib and other grapplers have been doing in mixed martial arts and stuff. So I think different ways of pinning people. Again, people using the turtle these days to stand up, to just disengage, get away, avoid points. Before it was a strategy based around regarding from, when you're defending pins. Now, oftentimes people are turning the turtle and just standing up. So, and also for half guard was, in jiu-jitsu, we love half guard, but in MMA, people prefer to be on top in half guard, chest to chest, and that's a pin. It's arguably easier to keep someone in bottom position from top half guard than it is side control, because obviously they can't turtle. So it's kind of being one thing Craig does really well is he's looking for that innovation himself. He himself wants to know. And this question, I guess, we're luckier here in Austin where we can kind of see things before they're done in competition, because they're obviously being worked out in the training room. And I think it's going to be, it's also, how do these things all fit together? What can we get rid of? But I think it's going to be a lot of this wrestling technique that's coming in, wrestling up from the guard. And I think people are going to be far more well-rounded in the future. That's the other thing we're going to.
I'm fascinated by what you're saying, because really what you're saying is, from what I just heard, like, it's a rhetorical question. What's next in jiu-jitsu? There's always going to be something next. And people like Craig will be hungry for what's next until he quits jiu-jitsu ultimately, So,
yeah,
so
often I'll find doing something, finding a lot of success with it, but then just for whatever reason I stop doing it, because something else shiny comes along, or certain people have a good counter to it. So it's like there's so much new stuff, there's so much old stuff you have to rehash. Like and that's why you can never get bored of it. This is
like
Nicky.
fashion.
Nicky Rod was in the training the other day, just grinning ear to ear. He's saying this. He's like, he loves this. He loves how there's so much more to learn. There's so much, like, even just passing. Like, so much of the jiu-jitsu I learn nowadays compared to the jiu-jitsu I started with. It's a whole different language. It's incredible, the difference.
It really is a mountain with no top.
Speaking of, how do you feel like the level in Australia compares to over there in the US? Like, overall?
Yeah, it's hard because obviously there have been some very elite Australian athletes get produced. I think the average, certain areas maybe we might be better at, just because of the Giles influence and all his retention stuff and things like that. In America, there's more of that. A lot of the college wrestlers and high school wrestlers getting back into grappling, so they're better in the standing skill. So it might be certain areas of the game. In general, I think the level now of the average hobbyist is higher than it's ever been, just because access to information is greater than it's ever been.
Yeah.
There's just so much information, so much quality information from quality sources. Like, it's just so much easier for guys to be better everywhere. It'd be hard to say that there are like some very competitive gyms in Australia, but obviously because there's not much of a financial incentive, that's going to drive people away. And in America, there is more opportunities for competing and I guess a monetary return. So that will always give the Americans the edge until we can kind of have more money in the sport that they'll kind of incentivize people. It's going to be tough to.
Yeah, you're right. The quality goes where the money
American kind of market.
The quality goes where the money.
Yes.
Interestingly, though, that access to information point, that's true. The head coach at Absolute now in the CBD, Giles is still the main man, but the head coach in the CBD, Kamal, he's a black belt. Giles gave him his black belt. He's never had a coach and taught himself everything on YouTube. No joke. And he is legit. Like, I'm talking, like he's and his coaching.
Yeah, level of detail is.
Yeah. Like, and because he's been taught on YouTube and watched a gazillion YouTube, the way he explains things, really interesting as well. So yeah, people can go from nothing to black belt with no coach. That's how much information is there.
A kid turned up to B team and was wrecking shop from China, sent by your buddy.
That's where he's from. Yeah.
China. It's insane. So
Yeah.
it goes to show, like, you can get better. Like, you know, sometimes people are like, oh, I'm at A and I want to get to Z. How the hell am I going to possibly do that? It's like, you do whatever you can wherever you are with whatever you have. Like, whatever, just push the needle. How you can get done today. You know, can you learn one technique? Like, if you learn just one technique a day, you know, how far will that go? So I'm a big believer in the power of like little things accumulated over time, you know, turning into big things.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's it. That's it. I don't know if it's too quick to wrap it up, but yeah, you've been awesome. Do you have any final words?
I've got a serious question before he goes,
Okay.
because like, are you ready yet for ninjutsu? Like, are you ready to make the transfer? Are you mature enough?
Yeah, I reckon I would kill any ninjutsu person on the planet.
We need to set up. You know what? We need to set you in there. We need to dojo store you into that place.
That's right. Yeah.
Does it exist anymore? I don't see any ninjutsu places around. Where are they? They're hiding. That's why.
I hope they all
yeah. So yeah, Bobby. Any final words? Any words of wisdom for our listeners to round it out?
I'm actually looking for some of that wisdom stuff myself. So if you got a link where I can buy some or something, please.
I've got a 2-hour instructional, bro.
Yeah, I'll buy it in bulk. Yeah, look, you know, it's hard to tell people what to do when you're 23, and it's hard to find socks in the morning. But yeah, I think just jiu-jitsu wise, I think an easy I was talking to a friend recently about they were experiencing like a plateau. They felt like they weren't getting better, and I think sometimes if you try to take in all of jiu-jitsu at once, it's just kind of too much, and it's just like food. You got to break it down into chunks that are easy to swallow. So I think just picking a spot in the game and dedicating positional training, you know, doing positional training from one of the key positions and spending a lot of time kind of seeing what plays out in the sequence, what your opponent does, what's stopping you from achieving your goals, kind of trying to break down and focusing on one particular thing for a week or a month. And that's, I think, one of the main ways you can kind of drive your progression up. So I think that's something that's really helped me. Yeah.
That's awesome, man. Well, it's blown my mind that you're 23 years old, man. Like, if I had the head on my shoulders that you do at 23, I would be king of the world by now. So, you know what I mean? I really do think you're off to an amazing start in life, bro. You're pursuing your dreams. It's definitely been a very interesting episode. Like, I want to talk to you more, man. I'm just fascinated by you. So please come back, be a regular. Yeah.
You are coming back to Australia, yeah? When are you due to return?
Hi, I'm back in July.
Awesome. To Melbourne or going back to Sydney? Or not sure?
Yeah. I'm back in Sydney just for a bit because my parents are on the Central Coast, and then likely training, teaching, doing a bit of travel for teaching if
awesome, man.
It's on my way. Yeah.
Well, I'm really also. Sorry, go on, Kim. Go.
No, I was just going to say we'll get you back on once you're back.
All right,
in
guys.
Australia.
Well, thanks again for having me. You guys have.
Yeah, we'll do. And let's seriously, if you're keen, you may not be keen, but I'm keen to organize this ninja. If we can find this ninja school, we'll get you versus their top student, and we'll do like a YouTube bit about it. It'll be hilarious. Yeah, it'd be amazing.
Imagine if they hadn't knocked you back, Bobby. You would be doing that now.
Yeah.
Sorry, I think I've.
No, I was just saying, imagine if they hadn't knocked you back for being too young. You could be doing
imagine I was.
Yeah.
What a different parallel universe that would be.
Yeah, that would be weird.
Who knows? Probably will be talking to you.
Yeah. Oh my God, you'd have to be. Anyway, we're out of
All right,
time,
guys, I'm gonna.
and the audio's gone weird. But you take care,
It is.
brother. Thanks so much. Love
Thank
to
you.
hear
We'll
about
have
the
this out
weekend.
in a couple of weeks. If you could share it on your platform, that would be awesome. And yeah, we look forward to seeing you back in Australia soon. Enjoy the rest of your time.
Thank you. Take care.
Cheers, buddy.
Bye.
Oh, wow,
He's
we
gone
really
already.
lost him.
It really has gone.
All right.
Couldn't wait. See
Yeah,
ya.
that's all right. I can wait to get out of here.